Reverend Dr. J.W. Morrison, theologist, New South Wales, Australia. Speaking on the subject of covert emotional incest and being the best version of yourself. Before you go anywhere near a relationship, you should at least be the best version of yourself. The culture of jumping from one person to another has only ever led to trouble, to mental health issues, to trying to quiet the pain through pills, alcohol, weed, and other substances, which leads to further problems. Casual sex, as recorded by the statistics of psychology, has only ever led to personal mental health issues at the deepest level. It's a cave where all the footsteps lead in and none lead out. You're invaded, you're intruded upon, your self-worth is depleted. You suffer from guilt, shame, unbelief. You feel like you're unworthy, which you are, but that doesn't stop your instincts, which are driven probably by the medications, alcohol, and weed use, which accelerate the sex drive and cause irrational decisions to be made based on instinctual compulsions and desires. You're self-deceived. You have no self-awareness. You have no innate consciousness of making choices above the desires that you are following from within, from the sinful nature usually, which has the utmost influence over deceiving you, which takes away your self-awareness, as a matter of fact, and leads you into situations that you wish you haven't been in. People get robbed, they get sexually abused, they get sexually assaulted, they get raped, and all this can happen through the sites. They meet people that know how to love bomb and deceive and chameleonize themselves at the beginning and base it all on transparency and truth and spirit. You'll find that these people can write messages that make William Shakespeare look like somebody that couldn't read or write with their poetry and brilliance of words. They'll have you floating in the clouds with the sunrise and going to sleep like a baby at the sunset with their poetry and the way in which they write the initial text messages. And it doesn't take long for these text messages to disappear, and you wonder if the person's disappeared as well. And this is the beginning of the process of teaching somebody how to love you, which is the first red flag. If somebody has value for you, you shouldn't have to start to correct them and tell them what's right and what's wrong, particularly if they're over 15 years old. If somebody has any value for you, they'll be there without you having to correct them. They'll have the courtesy to at least message you ahead. As these things start to diminish, you can know that this person's probably heading towards a discard or will in some way or another cause you to discard them. These people know how to perform in a way in which they know you will react in a way in which you'll tell them to go. This usually comes out of unresolved issues that have mounted one upon the other to the point where it's actually ridiculous the way these people look in front of you. And again, they have very little self-awareness of what they're actually doing and what's going on. And you'll start to feel like some kind of police officer and this is not how a relationship is supposed to be. These people grandiose themselves. They talk about their personal information about you and them with their children. Their children then know how to assassinate who you are and vandalize your character They'll emotionally attack you and abuse you and try and exclude you. They will exclude you, as a matter of fact, as far as they can from family functions because they don't want you to be involved with their loved one, if that's what you'd call it. I wouldn't call people that are assassinating people's relationships loved ones. I'd call them invaders and intruders, minions and gremlins, and probably, to really be complimentive, the devil's spawn. The minions and gremlins are usually self-centered, infantile, struggling themselves. They mirror their parents. They mirror the parent that's raising them. If it's a mother, they try and mimic the mother to keep the mother on side and become feminine if they're males. The mother often becomes masculine because she's the main supplier and financial supporter, and how she supplies the housing and everything. Usually they spoil them. The mother becomes masculine because she's the breadwinner, and wife sees people. This is not isolated. This is right across the country, right across our communities, right across the world. It's not nice. It's not fair. These people will use their parents. The parents won't mind because it gives them a sense of identity, sense of security, and a sense of purpose. They assassinate their relationships themselves because their focus is tied up on the emotional incest. Children will feign suicide attempts to keep their attention of the parent. They'll feign sicknesses. They'll feign emotional negligence on the parent. They'll accuse the parent of neglecting them, and the parent really won't mind that because, again, it gives them a sense of security, sense of identity, and a sense of purpose. But it violates the rules of parent-child relationship, particularly if the child's 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years old and still dependent on the mother. As I said, these young men, in the case of single mother to adult son, become feminine. They start to mirror the mother, who becomes masculine. These people are usually subject to substances, medications, and weed and other drugs, depending on what mood they're in or who they've met or what's happening. They lose money. They owe money. They have nothing to show for their hard work. They owe taxes. They don't pay their bills on time and then have to pay interest on that. They're all interdependent in their dysfunction. It's an emotional cocktail, and it depends on molecular cocktail as well, depending on who's in what mood, as to how the atmosphere within the house will respond. They invade, they intrude on the personal space of the parent. The parent becomes the child, and the child becomes the parent. The parent begins to follow along with where the children believe they need to go, and yet the children haven't got a clue about where they're going themselves. And it's just a big toxic waste of money, time, emotion, and wisdom, because there is no wisdom. It doesn't take you long to find out that you're not welcome. You should never have gone there. You got love bombed and deceived. As hard as these people try to come into your life and love you, they're really not set up for it mentally, emotionally, spiritually, or physically. I've had these women have bad turns. I've had to ring ambulances for two of them. One of them almost twice I rang an ambulance. They're not fit. They're unhealthy. They've abused themselves for years and years. They've got mental health problems. They've got physical ailments. They're enmeshed with their children. They try and play a role but cannot manage it because their life won't allow them. Some of them, their life circles around the substance. Without the substance, they cannot function properly. And then they isolate you from their house because their children can't handle your light, your spirit, your strength, your masculinity, your stoic approach to life. It's destructive, it's harmful, and it is rampant through our communities, countries, and across the world. It's called covert emotional incest. Most of these people are covert narcissists. They keep their narcissism in the closet until you get behind closed doors and watch it manifest. And some people in the family might go mute. They don't speak, they don't respond, they don't try and resolve anything. They've been abused for years and years and years and have given up on any sense of anything. They rescue each other from responsibility. They enable dysfunction, and they enable a lack of responsibility. They take away each other's autonomy by becoming interdependent upon each other. Usually one is as I said, the enabler who has the supply source, the financial supply source. These people don't think money's important, yet they spend most of their life trying to find it at work, etc. They make out they're doing charitable works, but they're not. It's just a shop front for their toxic behavior, which will go on behind closed doors at home. Their charitable works are usually connected to an income rather than voluntary. And this will be a way in which they persuade people to think that they're kind-hearted and all the rest. But this would be short-lived if there was no income involved. Parents are usually disenablers. They don't know how to motivate their children. The adult children usually suffer from having great ideas about what they're going to do in life, but not sure how to execute it. Or if they do, it's based on the wrong decisions and they lose lots of money. But failure is not final, and you can bounce back. But once life slips through your fingers and the choices have not worked for you and you find yourself in debt and you've wasted all this money, and the mother's looking after the children's pets, cleaning up the dog shit and cat piss, and the dog's a narcissist as well, wants to attack everything and everyone that moves. The cat brings home lizards and rats and all this kind of thing. There's fleas, there's cockroaches, there's shit everywhere. Nobody gets along, if it's raining, nobody gets along. If the sun comes out, they're happy for a couple of hours and then have to turn to the medications, the substances to get them through the day. If there's no substance in the house, everybody turns on each other like maggots and parasites until somebody comes up with a solution to the problem to get the substance in the house, of which everybody, like a flood, like a tsunami, go back to water level for a few hours until the effects wear off, and then the whole cycle starts again. These people try and fit relationships into all of this, and the people in the relationships, if you're not an addict yourself or an alcoholic, look at it and go, is this some kind of a joke? I've said this to several of the women, of which they've just looked at me with a blank face and bloodshot eyes. Bloodshot eyes and a blur, hoping that I'm not going to ask them to leave. And yes, it is a joke. And if you can put up with it, they stay around. If you can't put up with it, they just disappear back into their cave where all the footsteps lead in and none lead out. They can't understand how somebody doesn't need that stuff and still can be fulfilled, powerful, and performing. It causes real insecurity in the males in that environment because they can't function according to the way they should. They've been feminized by the covert narcissistic mother. And this is a tragedy. This is the emotional molesting and incest within the family group, which she's taken out on the sons due to the incompetence of her husband. These people will be bi if they need to be to get sexual supply. They'll be promiscuous and practice all sorts of extra promiscuous activities in the bedroom, and that's fine. It's up to them. But the results and consequences of that will deplete their mental health and rationale. They catch diseases from meeting people that they don't know. They'll have sex without protection on the first night, and people that they don't know. And everything just turns out to be a disaster. The money gets wasted, their lives get wasted, their health gets wasted, their mind gets wasted, their relationships get wasted. And if you look around very carefully, you'll see that they're just functioning zombies. Jesus said people will die, they're dead in their sins. That means they're still living, but they're dead. They're just dead in sin. And then he said, let the dead bury their own dead, which means people can be dead in their sins. And that means they're not living in a way in which is benefiting themselves or the people around them. And that's what covert emotional incest does. It disenables and destroys everything around it. The people in it, the people that come to love these people, and everything around it. As I said, they have no self-awareness, no awareness of where you're at. They don't want to fix anything. They live in unresolved. They live in pain, torment, frustration, fear, insecurity. They live in low self-esteem. They have no value for themselves. And this is nobody else's fault but their own. They've got complex victim mentality with martyr syndrome, which feeds into their justification for alcohol, drug abuse, and medications. And they're all playing into this martyr syndrome, which enables each of them to support each other in their substance habits and other ways in which they medicate each other to make sure that everybody's safe and sound. If the supply looks like it's going to run out, there's a panic, subliminal panic going on until somebody comes to a solution, of which they get a moment to feel like they're a hero, only to find that the supply runs out quicker than they thought and they're back where they started, and it goes round and round again. People throwing into the pot to get the supply and just losing everything they have, wasting everything they have, and going around in circles like the dog chasing its tail with shit coming out of its ass. That's what it's like. If you try and get in and help these people, the flying monkeys, minions, gremlins, and grubs will undermine that, and you'll just turn around and think, well, I'm not doing that again. And they don't understand why, because again, as I said, they have no self-awareness. They don't self-examine. If they do, it's just to mirror what you want. It's really not a conscious thing. These people are dead. You are just an object to them that's meeting a need. And once you're not willing to meet that need, or you're ready to leave, they'll just let you leave and move on. And so they should. Personally, I don't have any clue how these people don't perform in a way in which they can succeed. They have all the attributes and character to do it, but covert emotional incest's got a way of destroying everything in its path. If you're not aware of what it is, it can deceive you. It's already deceived the people in it. But if you are aware of what it is, maybe God sent you to tell those people that this is going to be something that will affect the rest of your life if you don't deal with it now. They say they love each other as family members, but if this is sort of thing's going on, they don't, because it's molestation, it's emotional molestation and abuse. And it's narcissistic, because it has no regard for the people in their lives either. Unless you're aware of it, these people will use you up and spit you out, and you won't even know what's happened. You might take your life. It does cause narcissistic injury to the people that get involved with them, and they don't care, because they're living in narcissistic injury. That's why they're on substance things. This is Reverend Dr. J.W. Morrison, theologist. I'll see you in the next video. Subscribe, like, share if you want. It's not a joke, it's not a game. Covert emotional incest is harmful. It's destroying people all across the world. I'm getting out the awareness. I've been on the end of it. I suffered severe mental health injuries and lost too many good relationships from it. It's really not something that you want to toy around with, because it will destroy you and waste your time. You've got to be aware of how it works, and hopefully these videos are helping you. Bye for now.